welcome to Cinema Smackdown on CJLO 1690 AM. It is Sunday, October 6th, and we are getting back to basics. Last week we were talking about the best actor working today, and we ran out of time to talk about best actress, so this is part 2, the best actress working today category. Something along those lines. I actually have a holdover from last week. I totally forgot to mention somebody who I think is one of the best actors working today. I just wanted to touch on it before we jump into the new topic. Is that okay, old business?
Yeah, no, by all means. Let's hear it.
So, one of the best actors working today who it just sort of popped into my head as I was watching a film and he made a small appearance is the actor, I'm not even sure if you know him by name. Let's find out. The actor I'm talking about is a guy named Scoot McNairy.
Oh, you've mentioned Scoot many a time.
Yeah, well, whether you know who that is or not, you've seen 30 movies.
Yeah, and it's such a common name that it's easy to get lost in the mix. I can't tell you how many Scoots I know.
It's crazy. At your movie night, isn't there 4 of them?
Yeah, I know, it gets very confusing.
So Scoot McNairy is a character actor. If you need a descriptive detail for him, he has a bent nose. So if you really stare at his face...
Oh, I loved him in Jaws.
Who has a bent nose in Jaws? Is it Quint?
No, Roy Scheider.
Oh, that's true. Roy Scheider does have quite the nose.
He looks like he's been punched in the face every day of his life.
It's not quite the Owen Wilson, your skull sticking through your nasal passage nose that he has, but...
He has a weird orangutan nose.
Well, Scoot McNairy is a kind of the quintessential character actor right now. I don't think he's starred in a single movie with one exception, and that exception is the movie Monsters. Remember that film?
Monsters.
You were a fan. It's the one about a man and a woman walking through an apocalyptic...
Oh, that one. Yeah, okay, yes.
He's the lead in that.
There's so many similarly titled movies.
I know. It's one of those. So he's the lead in that film. I do not recall that movie. I was not aware of him at the time, so I have very, very little recollection of the experience of watching that one. I remember.
Yeah, well, it's very docudrama. You are there, and he does fit in quite well to that sort of style.
I remember thinking it felt very improv, the whole film.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's a lot of interaction with real people in it who are just. Oh yeah, we have these 2 characters, and go talk to those people, and meanwhile we're going to pretend there's kind of this ongoing monster apocalypse happening.
Yeah. Well, Mr. McNairy can be seen in a small part in Superman, Batman, Dawn of Justice. Oh, sorry, I forgot the V. Superman v. Batman, Dawn of Justice. He plays the gentleman who's been injured.
Oh,
and wants
right.
revenge.
Yes.
He is, by the way, in the director's cut, the one who gets the F word to a Superman movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the allowed single F word that will allow you to still have a PG rating.
Now, here's the thing. He's in Superman vs. Batman, he's in Gone Girl, and he is also in Argo, which lets you know something. He's Ben Affleck's buddy. He's in a bunch of Affleck films. He is also Brad Pitt's buddy, because he is in Killing Them Softly, where I find that's his masterpiece. That's the one where when he pulls... a pair of pantyhose over his head to do a robbery, and his nose is twisted off to the side, you go, wow, he looks weird, and then he takes it off again, you go, oh no, it's still pretty twisted off to the side. He's also got a part in War Machine, that's another Brad Pitt movie, the Netflix movie by David Michôd, where he is the narrator of that film, so he really has quite a part in that movie. So he's in several Brad Pitt movies.
Well, we know which buddy he should continue to hitch his cart to.
At any rate, he is in several films, and then we move into his TV career, where he was a regular on a season of True Detective. He was on almost all of *Halt and Catch Fire*, which is nothing but actors I love and nothing but plot I can't get into. I really wanted to watch *Halt and Catch Fire*, but it pushed me right out real quick. It's a techie show. It's all about the dawn of the computer industry. And finally for TV, there are 2 more things. He was in Godless, which I couldn't recommend higher. It's the Scott Frank, I want to say 6 or 8 episode Western Netflix show, which is really, really harsh, really well written, really well performed. He's the lame sheriff in that show. He's a guy who's a sheriff who's kind of not doing great. And is a little cowardly. He's quite good in it. And finally, he was on last season of Fargo. He's the gentleman with the air conditioner.
Well, I have not watched the most recent season of Fargo yet.
Oh, that's funny. I thought I asked you that literally last week, and you said, "Yeah, I've seen it."
No, I've mentioned that I'm aware of it. I just haven't sat down to, even though I was a fan of the first two seasons.
He's an air conditioner repairman.
Spoiler. Ruined the season for me. Now I don't have to watch it.
At any rate, he has a very memorable role in the show, but it is just that, a memorable role, as opposed to a major part. Scoot McNairy is definitely a front-runner for me in the people that I am happiest to see in movies, who has the most interesting career going. He's certainly not going to be headlining a Marvel movie anytime soon, but I really dig him.
Well, he could head a DC movie as Explodin' Man. What's that guy? Was it Skeet Ulrich? Is that the name?
That is another person.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I see a film partnership here. Skeet and Scoot.
Skeet and Scoot. Paranormal Detectives.
Sure, sure.
Like
it would be the best name pairing since Shane Black and Fred Decker made.
Black and Decker together.
Yeah, Black and Decker. Yeah.
That is so terrible to be honest.
Appropriate for a horror film, though.
We are not here to talk about actors anymore. I just needed, that's my last little bit of business on the actor front. Anybody else you needed to get in under the wire? Now that you've mentioned Skeet Ulrich, your ultimate man crush.
I don't know. I'm trying to think what other broken-nosed actor I can go for.
Well, you mentioned Roy Scheider. If he was alive, he'd be.
I mean, I absolutely love Jonathan Banks as well, but he's more of a TV guy. So.
I mean, here's the thing about Jonathan Banks.
I know he's good. Fantastic in Gremlins.
He was good once for an extended period, playing the same character on 2 different shows. He's great, and everything else.
Gremlins. It's all about Gremlins.
Yeah, I think he's also got a very small part in Beverly Hills Cop. But really, it's his.
He's one of those guys who's been around forever. And
really, as far as Jonathan Banks goes, it's really his sexually transmitted disease commercial where he incorrectly gives information on how to avoid STDs that really is the highlight of his career. Can be found on YouTube.
Yeah, and highly recommended.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move. With that seamless transition, let's move into the best actress working today. So, I know that you have one.
I have
very
one
solid person to talk about.
All the others are dead.
Much like last week when you kind of had to work your way towards a male performer, and honestly, I don't even buy that your top choice was a top choice.
No, well,
It was iffy. I have the same thing this week with the female performer. I do not have a top choice. I do have something like 12 contenders, all of whom are at varying points in their careers, and none of which are just the one for me. So I will.
Yeah, see, I have the one for actress, but for actor it was more like, well, who's made the best choices?
Yeah, I've got a lot of those right here. I've got a couple people who at least are in some very interesting things. Oh, before I forget, if our listeners are paying any attention at all,
are you out there? Hello.
We have some passes to a movie that I am happy to give out this week. I have a double pass for the movie Gemini Man, and it will tie into my Best Actress comment at some point. So Gemini Man is the new Will Smith playing his nutty professor role.
Yeah, well, speaking of Best Actors working today.
And Will Smith is playing a dual role in this film, at the very least. And the movie wouldn't interest me as a $100+ million sci-fi film, except that it's directed by Ang Lee, which, if nothing else, just makes it a massive curiosity to me.
Now, did Ang Lee allow him to nepotism his talentless son into this production as well?
I have not yet seen the film.
Okay,
so I can either confirm or
unless
deny.
he's working as a grip, that's about as high as he should ever rise in the industry.
I can't help but agree with you. Although I do always enjoy his appearances at prestigious weddings in a white Batman costume. Always appreciated.
Classy.
Yep. Nothing says, don't distract from the bride, like a white Batman suit.
Now, surely the bride should be in the white Batman suit.
I mean, if anybody...
I would go to that wedding. I hate weddings, but I would go to that one.
It would be an interesting one. Who knows? Maybe there's been a few white Batman-suited brides after his first appearance in such a suit. At any rate, we have a few passes to give away. Well, one pass to give away at least for the Gemini Man movie. if you are interested right now, you can contact us. I'll take a call just for fun if anybody wants to phone in now, but if no one does, I'll take a note on the website, the first person to contact us or call us. We do have a Cinema Smackdown website. You can find it, you can send a message to it. If you're the first person to write a message, you'll get these passes. But if anybody is
that cinemasmackdown.com? Is that the one?
Yeah. If anybody is feeling so bold as to give us a shout right now, our number is... What is the main number? These are the pledge numbers. Yeah, let's give the pledge number. It's still operating. I'll pretend I'm trying to get you to give me a pledge. It's 514-940-3095. Yeah. If you are so inclined as to get a free pass to Gemini Man, which is this week on Wednesday night in Montreal, the phone number again is 514-940-3095.
Call us, we're so lonely.
We don't really have a lot of success with people phoning in, so I'm not going to worry too much.
No, but we will pretend that someone called during the break if it comes to that.
Sure, pretend.
Yeah.
Let's pretend. Well, the break's coming up in about a minute. So I feel like we should work up to your pick for Best Actress.
Yeah, sure. No,
we have other people to talk about, or are we just? Well,
I could talk about some of the ones that are now lamentably dead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that, but that's not really the topic today. The topic is working.
Yeah, I know, exactly. That's the point.
Feel free to throw in your Olivia de Havilland's.
Yes, who is still alive. She will outlive us all.
I do believe you're correct.
107 years young about at this point? It's
just about. Oh dear God. Yeah, we've just about managed to run out the clock right up to the ad anyway. So, tell me about one of your. Tell me about one of your not still alive.
Oh well, if it had only been, I don't know how long she's been dead at this point. Let's pretend 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. It would have been Julie Harris. I was a big Julie Harris fan for a very long time.
I actually was not aware she was not alive. So.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I hate to break the news to you, but
I am gonna need a moment.
Yeah,
Which is to say, that's a perfect moment for me to go to commercial. So while I try to dry my tears, we'll be listening to this short commercial break.
Our phone is ringing off the hook.
Oh, I wasn't expecting anybody to phone in. In fact, I just did it out of a sense of obligation to having been given a few passes. Are you interested in seeing that, or are you just like, not a chance?
Maybe, depending on the timing, basically.
Wednesday night around 7-ish, as they usually are.
Oh, well, considering that movie night is currently on hiatus for a couple weeks, then, I would be more tempted to...
Well, I'll check in with you again. I have a few passes.
But,
the VLC player will just pause arbitrarily before playing clips.
It speaks a lot about how much of a listenership we have if we're saying, here's free movie passes, and not a single person can pick up the phone to go, I won't bother calling. I won't be able to beat the rush.
We're back right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back on CJLO 1690 AM. I'm Michael Brody. I'm joined today by Shane Simmons. Our show is called Cinema Smackdown. We are running down the best working actresses of today, a little list. And we were supposed to come up with a best. I don't have a best. Shane has a best. We'll get to her later. There's mountains of information about that person. Things that we should
all of it's strange.
We'll fit it in between my many, many, many people list, I guess. And you of course, can throw in anybody who occurs to you.
But breaking news, Julie Harris is still dead.
You monster! All right, you know what? I made my list in a certain type of chronological order, which is to say, once I had my list of women... that sounded really terrible. Once I had my list of best actresses...
Once you had your notch count, yeah.
Yeah, my list of best actresses, I arranged it chronologically by age, which is to say the oldest people first, the youngest people last. So the first person I will mention...
I'm sure none of them will appreciate you mentioning their age on here.
I'm not going to mention their age.
Okay.
I didn't write down their age. At any rate, the elder stateswoman of the group would be Helen Mirren, who is still great. She was great when she was essentially a teenager taking off her clothes in every single movie she was in. that sort of culminates in
And now she's a
Caligula.
97-year-old taking her clothes off in every movie she's in.
She, as an elderly lady, has taken her clothes off in a few films that don't seem entirely
She's still
appropriate.
strangely hot.
Oh, absolutely, and I would not use strangely.
Yeah.
She is
Well,
still hot.
strangely in that you're not still supposed to be hot at her advanced age, but
she
she
has
has.
charisma.
Yeah, exactly. She has that sort of energy that goes. It's a come hither energy.
Helen Mirren has a hobby, as I understand it, and her hobby is whenever she meets a man of a certain age, which is to say a man who was between 13 and 16 in the early 80s, she will always, upon meeting them, say, "Oh, you're this age, aren't you? So that means you've wanked to me, haven't you?"
Right.
Which is absolutely charming.
Charming, except if it had been a guy, that would have been a Me Too moment. Her career would now be over.
Well, arguably it is. She can't.
I don't know. We're still waiting on Red 3, so...
The thing that really amuses me about it, yeah, it's true, she does appear in the Red movies, which are utter trash. But
yeah,
it's
but
kind of fun that she's in them.
if you get off on watching Helen Mirren shoot a giant machine gun,
Exactly. Well, if you're into that sort of thing, there's also
I know I went to that.
there's 2 installments of the Fast and Furious franchise that include Helen Mirren now.
Oh God,
Yep, and she's great in them.
does she kick the crap out of The Rock?
I mean,
She
in
could.
my heart. She has a pretty cute little role in 2 of the movies, just dropping in as Mum. She's quite the character. It's just fun to watch something where someone should absolutely not be making an appearance and realize, wow, you really stooped to having a moment in this film. Great.
I look forward to seeing those performances in 1,000 years when I get around to watching that series.
Oh, there's so many worse films you could be
There's
watching.
so,
And
but
don't get me wrong.
The
there's
thing is,
so
in
many
1,000
better.
years, there will be 1,000 more Fast and Furious movies because they will not stop.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think that sounds about right. Although at the moment they are projecting, much like Quentin Tarantino, an end at the 10th film. That's the projection.
And then the Fast and the Furious, the next generation begins.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I think there's also a Netflix cartoon show, just to be clear. They've also begun
Of course, there has
Hobbs
to be.
and Shaw spin-off series. Did not hate Hobbs and Shaw, expected to. Did not. Has moments. At any rate, I don't...
I like when Helen Mirren beats up both of them.
I don't have too much to say about Helen Mirren. I didn't even write down any of her credits because, she's done a lot of work.
Helen Mirren, I think, deserves extra consideration because she is the only one who survived being in Caligula intact.
True.
That ruined so many careers, and yet she was made of Teflon and got through it.
Isn't John Gielgud?
Yes.
Yeah, he did fine.
Yeah. Well, Arthur, yay.
Arthur is one of his crowning achievements.
No, I know, but I mean, that was kind of like around the same era, his last great hurrah. And...
Yeah, but it is a great hurrah. I mean, the thing about him and Arthur, that John Gielgud, is he just wanders in, says a pithy line, and wanders out. It's kind of delightful.
So can I share a John Gielgud, Helen Mirren story from Caligula?
I believe you can.
So they're watching Rushes at one point. This is on the commentary track. Malcolm McDowell relates the story, doing appropriate impressions. And they were watching Rushes of the orgy scene. And it was just raw footage. And at one point, Sir John Gielgud, looking at the screen, declares in horror, "Oh my God, it's Helen's arsehole!" To which Helen Mirren screamed and then demanded of the director Tinto Brass, "You have to burn this footage, because if Bob Guccione gets his hands on it, who is producing the film, we will see no end of it in the pages of Penthouse."
No end of it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably true. I do believe that her request was granted.
Yes. Apparently this footage no longer exists, and Tito Brass was a gentleman pornographer. Few of those.
Yeah, he's an odd fellow. He was quite an odd fellow. So let's move on from Helen Mirren. I'll go to my next slightly younger actress, who would be, again, I don't know if you'll know this person by name. There is a woman who's a wonderful character actress. She's appeared in probably 100 movies and about 75 television shows. Her name is Margot Martindale. Any familiarity?
Not ringing a bell?
She's in a million things. Our listeners who might know her will know why I like her. She is a charming southern lady. She has any number of cameos in... She's essentially the Scoot McNairy.
With a far less interesting name.
I love the name Margot Martindale. There's something odd.
Yeah, but
about it. Is it Marvel Universe name?
True enough. Yeah.
At any rate, her crowning achievement role for me, and there's lots of great work out there, is she was on the TV show The Americans, playing a handler, which, considering most of her career, is playing essentially moms, like happy-go-lucky, slightly southern racist moms. She's quite amazing on The Americans, playing a much more hard-nosed character. I really loved her in this show, but I've loved her for years. She has a personality that's just really bubbly and interesting.
So in one role, she's baking cookies, and in another role, she's distributing Russian assassins.
Yes, that's essentially it. She was also briefly on Dexter. She's on everything. She had a recurring role on The Good Wife and The Good Fight as a somewhat of a political fixer. She's an interesting woman. She's essentially so versatile she could do anything, which is what I love about her. Like a lot of actors that have that element of, if you're a good enough character actor, you can be in a comedy, a drama, a horror film, and you fit perfectly in any of them. So that's my take on Margot Martindale. I will move on to the next person who I definitely know you know. Mm-hmm. And the next in order of age, I should stop saying that, is Allison Janney.
Oh, yes.
Who is also doing nothing but turning in these amazingly stellar performances month after month, year after year, and she works. This woman is starring in movies and a sitcom. She's been on a sitcom for 5 years. They just re-upped that sitcom for 2 seasons.
Which sitcom is this?
She's on Mom.
Okay.
And she won an Oscar last year for I, Tonya, for playing Tanya's mother, which was kind of a built-in Oscar-winning role, I think. It almost didn't matter who played that person as long as they were convincingly terrible. So I consider it more of an Allison Janney career Oscar, like many of them are.
Yeah.
She is great. I mean, I assume you remember her from West Wing.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I did not watch West Wing, so I don't know her from that era.
I watched West Wing up to a point.
Does she play a mostly likable character on that show?
Yeah, I mean, they're all... It is the sort of democratic wet dream dream team of White House occupants. Uh-huh. So they're all kind of wonderful in their own way.
Yes,
and she plays the press secretary and
greatest imaginable politics.
Yeah, if they were in charge, you would just want to re-elect them forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. At any rate, Allison Janney was on all of those things. She also had a somewhat significant part in the first season of the show Masters of Sex.
Oh, yes.
And Masters of Sex has a policy of every single major actor who appears on Masters of Sex must be naked at a certain point. That's all the women and all the men. So if you've got a hankering to get your Allison Janney on, you know where to go.
Sold.
Oh, something I should mention is...
And I don't mean that sarcastically.
I am today going to mention about 10 actresses, almost all of whom have a strange thing in common. They have all either been on or directly referenced in a parody fashion on the TV show BoJack Horseman. So many of these people have, for one reason or another, I don't think Helen Mirren has directly been on the show, but Margot Martindale has, I believe Allison Janney has. I have several more, and I was looking through their credits and realizing that's this common link. They've all appeared on BoJack Horseman, which is a cartoon show, so of course it's all voice work. And and
it doesn't mean any of them ever met each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. At any rate, it's a funny... I do believe Allison Janney continues to do stellar work on essentially a daily basis, because you kind of... If you're into watching film and TV, you're going to run into her a lot. She's around. She's always working on something. So yeah, she's a favorite of mine. I mean, it's hard to quantify any of these as my best actress working today. She's certainly in the running because of how good she is in most of the films she's in and how fantastic she is on that sitcom. I will go out as far as to say she's definitely the best actor or actress working on a funny television show at present. I would say that, for sure. Because her role as the outrageous drug addict, alcoholic mother on this show is kind of a dream role. I keep expecting this show to get canceled, and they just keep renewing it. I don't mean I don't like it. I love the show Mom. It just seems like, how could this possibly be a hit? these people are reprehensible. I mean, it's a grounded show. It's not. They're not driving their cars through buildings in every single episode. They just have their very realistic breaks from reality here and there. Bad choices all around.
I think there's a real marketing drive for shows about people who are worse than the viewers, so the viewers can go, hey, maybe I'm not so bad after all.
Or that you can identify with on some level. I can definitely identify with the characters on Mom more than I can most other happy family shows. There's something a little bit more believable in their difficulties and their failings. That's the part I like. Let's move on from Allison Janney, a person I only have a moment to mention as the career's not...
Well, as we're going in reverse order, I think we're down to people in their mid-70s.
We're down to people in their 60s. Actually, I think Allison Janney is cresting 60. She's around that age.
All right.
So actually, I might have gotten these two in the reverse order because my next is a real brief one is I'm very fond of Laurie Metcalf. Laurie Metcalf plays Jackie on the Roseanne and the Connors show. She's been doing that for over 30 years. Off and on, obviously, as they had a 20-year gap.
Yeah, and I don't think I can really recall seeing her in anything during that gap.
Oh, she works constantly. She's a Broadway actress.
Well,
so that's her
that would be why I haven't seen her in anything. I don't hang out at Broadway too often. I'm more of an off Broadway type of guy.
She's in an awful lot of movies. Like she's one of hundreds of people in JFK, of course. She's in Internal Affairs, I think it's called, the Richard Gere movie with Andy Garcia. Was it called? Internal? I think it was called Internal Affairs. At any rate,
must have missed that one.
She's his partner in that.
Okay.
Garcia, I believe. She has an interesting, like, standard cop or partner.
Yeah, I can see her as a cop, and she would have that believable cop.
But it is her. I mean, I like her a lot on the Roseanne and Connor show, where she is essentially a fearless actress who will say the worst, most embarrassing imaginable things, and then just show up for work again next week. Like, I can't get over what an awful character that must be to play. Just on the embarrassment level, that character is.
Well, she gets the shine now that they cut the star's throat and threw her away.
Let's be clear, the star of that show was always Sarah Gilbert and always will be. But Laurie Metcalf has one other credit that I think is worth mentioning. She was in Scream 2 in a small part playing a reporter, and I absolutely love her in that movie. If you don't remember it...
No, I don't remember it because I saw Scream and despised it so much I'd never watched another one.
Oh, Scream 2 is great. I will argue it is the better of the two. Mm. And I don't despise Scream, but it didn't deserve to be a massive hit. It's a minor movie.
It's a very smug, self-referential film that is in love with the smell of its own farts.
All right, then.
So there you go. That's
fine. I can't disagree with you. I prefer the second one. Same writer, same director, same-ish cast, because some of them are gone by then. But and it was a very Scream 2 is a great sequel. It has all of the elements of being a sequel, but then it ups the ante in places where I thought, yeah, this is more fun. They really had a lot more fun with it. So, Laurie Metcalf has a career high performance and a small part as a reporter who's too nosy, which I thought was quite delightful. At any rate, we are at the half-hour mark, which means it's a good time to mention that you're listening to CJLO 1690 AM. Our show is called Cinema Smackdown. Today we are talking about the best actresses working today. I'm going to mention one or two more because I'm not getting anywhere near through my list.
No,
and then I want to get to yours and then come back to a couple of mine. So very quickly I will mention Melissa Leo, who won an Oscar a couple of years ago for playing the mother in The Fighter. I didn't like her performance in that at all, but I was very happy to see her get some accolades because she's been amazing ever since 1990 when she played a smaller but relevant part on the TV show Homicide, where she was just one of the detectives, and I found her performance just really, really mesmerizing. She's an interesting person, but she's been sidelined a lot up until the mid-2000s, like the 2005, something along those lines. Essentially, once she won an Oscar, she was pretty much golden. But she made a movie in, I think, 2005 or 2008 called Frozen River, where she played the lead. She was a mom who realizes she can drive her car over the frozen river to get around the border.
and it's a drug dealing.
It's a drug dealing movie.
Yeah.
And it is,
So
it's a mesmerizing
it's
film.
it's kind of ice road truckers for meth dealers.
Yep,
yeah.
that's essentially it. But she's great in it, and it is one of those films where the main character's desires, the thing they want to achieve, is so small. You just really want it for them. You're like, can I get in touch with the movie and help her attain her goal?
I just want to deal drugs and destroy a few lives. Is that too much to ask?
That's too much to ask. Anyway, her goals in that movie are so reasonable. You just really want to see her succeed, even if it means having to deal little drugs and really endanger the lives of people and or herself by driving over a frozen river, essentially. Good film.
I'm getting the strong impression that this entire episode, including my pick, will be a refutation of the adage that there are no roles left for women on the wrong side of 40.
Well, I'm going backwards in my listing. So
well, okay. I'm sure there's a lot of child actors on your list.
I'll mention one more person, and then we're going to do yours.
Okay,
the
sure.
The last person I want to mention is Catherine Keener. Do you recall Catherine?
Oh, yes. Yes, very well.
Catherine Keener burst on the scene in the early 90s as the indie darling actress. She is in every cool director's first or second movie. It is amazing. She's in all of Nicole Holofcener's movies. Now, that's...
Yeah, and then she got into that horrible cage fight with Maggie Gyllenhaal, and
I don't get that reference.
Well, no, just that the indie film darling aspect of it. I feel like
Maggie Gyllenhaal didn't come along for another, I don't know, 7 or 10 years.
Yeah, I know. She was sort of like the upstart. She became the emergency backup, Catherine Keener.
Sure. Well, Catherine Keener was in all of, as I said, Nicole Holofcener's movies. She made Walking and Talking, Lovely and Amazing, Friends with Money, Please Give. She's in all of those films. I'm assuming you've seen none of these.
Those aren't ringing a bell now.
They are all dramas about people living their lives and having small issues, small dreams, small problems. But they're so well written. The dialogue in those films is amazing, and every performance, they're just stellar movies for that. I like to watch movies where people just live. I am not, like many of my friends, someone who only watches movies if there's a laser sword involved. So, I do recall our good friend Dave once said, I like every kind of movie, but wouldn't every kind of movie just be a little bit better if there was a laser sword in it?
Yes, and of course, then there's my friend Eric, who also has that similar attitude of everything would be better if only there were a robot in it.
Yeah.
So.
At any rate, I really do enjoy the writing and cinema of Nicole Holofcener, and Catherine Keener was essentially the star of every one of her first few films. Catherine Keener went on to be in all of the movies for quite a while by the director Tom DeCillo, who started off with Brad Pitt's first major movie, which was Johnny Suede. She's the love interest in that. He also went on to do Living in Oblivion, where she is the female protagonist. So she went on to work with, what's his name?
Spike Jonze?
Yes. Jeez, that was a good jump. Of course, she's one of the leads in Being John Malkovich. You know, she's just every indie darling film she's going to be in. If she had been working in the early 80s, she'd have been in all the Coen Brothers movies, would be my guess.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they're all still working. I see a match there at some point.
The interesting... She may well be in a Coen Brothers movie, actually. I am not looking at her filmography as we speak.
One does not occur to me, but...
But they've worked with a lot of people.
They have. So, but they do have their certain stable of people that they like to use over and over again, and she is not among the stable.
True. But Catherine Keener does have a version of a career high moment. Not an acting moment, but just a... It's interesting that she is the female protagonist in this. She is the object of desire of the 40-year-old virgin. She's the woman that he chases after, who is really, really kind to him and very reasonable about... I think there's a whole long plot line about going on 20 dates without sex that they jokingly get into and then start to follow through on. It's quite a well done.
Yeah, but then she makes him sell all his toys, so she's a monster.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Agreed. That's not my favorite plot point in that movie, but lots of things are not my favorite plot point in that movie. I do like that film to some degree, but it has the poisoned what is it? The poison tree vine? What's the expression? The poison anyway.
I'm not sure what you're at.
Judd Apatow's work is now all a little rough for me. basically, given his recent comments about certain things which I didn't agree with that are a little rough, and mostly importantly, as an artist, he's really not working for me anymore.
Yeah, well, I've never been a fan of his shoot comedian people doing funny things and whatever, and eventually we'll have enough material to cut together into some sort of semblance of a film.
As a Bill Hader superfan, have you seen his Amy Schumer movie?
No, I still have it in the back of my head. It's like, yeah, I kind of want to see it for him. On the other hand, it's an Amy Schumer film.
I don't hate her. She's interesting.
Yeah, did you ever see the Leather special?
Yes,
that'll cure you of that.
Her recent horrible stand-up career, but her choices as an actress are very interesting. I will say that the things she's been offered, the things she's done. The fascinating thing about I have no idea what that movie is called. The one that she's in with.
Oh, Trainwreck.
Oh, thank you. Is that Bill Hader plays that movie completely straight. Mm-hmm. It is a nearly slapstick comedy, and he is the straight man in almost every scene he's in.
If it's revealed at the end that he's actually playing Barry and she's the one he's supposed to hit next.
He is far too confident in this movie to be Barry. Barry is second-guessing himself.
Barry is a neurotic mess.
At no point...
Barry is the train wreck.
At no point during Trainwreck does Bill Hader turn to camera and go, "What?" All right, I have talked enough about actresses I think it's time for you to tell me a little something about the actress you like, Shane.
Well, of course, my pick can only ever be Meryl Streep. I just love me some Meryl.
I can't believe you...
I can't keep a straight face with that one.
No,
I've come to despise Meryl Streep in the same way that I've come to
didn't say Glenn Close.
I've come to despise the late career of Robert De Niro. It's a similar trajectory of, you used to be a legendary actor at one point. What happened?
Multiple Mamma Mia sequels?
Yeah, exactly. Watching you sing horribly or do terrible big shoe comedy.
I've seen Meryl Streep do great and terrible things throughout her career. She's certainly not someone I've written off. She's still...
It's hard to believe that this is the same person who starred in Sophie's Choice, when she's like, I got known for doing accents, so let me do the most broad, stupid caricature accents and voices in my late career.
She's our greatest Thatcher.
Yeah. See, I'm extra irritated because I have a longtime friend who I've known since, I won't say childhood, because I met her when I was 17 and she was a little kid. Mm-hmm. But, now she's in her 40s and I'm an old man, so. And she is an actress, and she adores Meryl Streep, to the point where there was a picture of her on her knees, literally worshipping Meryl Streep's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Mm-hmm. And we disagree on film constantly. And this is just another point I disagree with. It's like, of all the actresses you could possibly worship, it's sort of like back when Dawson's Creek was on the air, and there was a character, I never watched the show, but you told me about it. And there was a character who adored...
Thanks for outing me as a Dawson's Creek fan.
I apologize. That was cruel of me. And there's a character, I guess it was Dawson, who idolized a filmmaker. And you asked me on the phone once, he said, who's the most obvious, painful choice of a director he could admire? And I said, well, it's got to be Steven Spielberg. And I said, yeah. And it's like... could there be anyone more mainstream to idolize for success in your craft, in your dream? And Meryl Streep is the equivalent of that in the actress vein. It's like, please, I beg you, pick anyone more obscure. Pick someone dead. Pick a classic act. Tell me it's Marlene Dietrich. Tell me it's Susan Hayward. Tell me Myrna Loy. Anyone but Meryl Streep.
I like the fact that we're really doing an episode where we want to build actresses up, talk about how great they are, but you have just done a 3 or 4 minute rant about what's wrong with this.
Yeah, well, she's, if I made that a serious pick, you would have groaned, but most people would go, oh, of course, Meryl's wonderful.
Meryl's wonderful in those 13 movies I haven't seen her in, because I don't watch that many movies, and I'm certainly not watching these. Yeah, she's the go-to Oscar candidate every year, no matter good or bad.
Yeah, she gets it as a door prize.
Yeah.
And it's become irritating.
Of course.
No, the one I do pick, she has won an Oscar. In fact, she went to the Oscar ceremony dressed as a bag of garbage.
I completely forget the fact that your pick, I know who your pick is. I have no recollection of this Oscar, so remind me as you tell me who it is.
It was for Michael Clayton, the supporting actors.
Her most off to the side, nothing performance.
Actually, no, I think that performance is fantastic because it's got a great character arc in which we established early on with her practicing speaking in front of a mirror. Mm-hmm. That this is a person who is supremely competent, but needs to practice everything meticulously to get it right.
Okay.
And it's a character flaw that is established in that moment and plays out at the end of the film where she's surprised by something, has to improvise her reaction, and blows it.
Right.
That's why that's an interesting character, and I am, of course, talking about Tilda Swinton, who I first became aware of in 1992 with the release of Orlando, where I just saw the poster for that and said, oh my goodness, who is this striking woman who's playing a man for half the film? And I ran around after seeing that. I was very impressed by her, and I did run around seeing some of her at the time extremely obscure art films. I'm probably one of 3 people who saw Wittgenstein, which is a hard slog of a film just for her bit part. But at the time, the pickings for Tilda Swinton films were very few and far between. She's since become an extremely mainstream choice to the point where, yes, she is now part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, playing the Doctor Strange mentor character. But she has remained true to her indie roots in that she's another one who works with interesting directors. So she's entered the stable of people like the Coen brothers, Wes Anderson, and what, I can't remember his name, the Korean director who did Okja and Trent. There you go. And Trent.
I may be totally messing that up, by the way.
Yeah, and Trans-Siberian, where apparently his fetish with Tilda Swinton is to put her in the most ridiculous prosthetic teeth possible.
Yeah.
But enduring nevertheless. I have to admit, I find Tilda Swinton indescribably hot, even when she's playing this grotesque, horrible character in Trans. Did I say Trans-Siberian? I meant Snowpiercer.
No, you...
Different train movie.
Actually, I have no idea which one you said. I knew which one you meant.
Yeah, no. I might have said one over the other. I get them confused in my head because they're both train movies.
Just to add a couple things. One, Tilda Swinton will never be hotter than she was when she played a man, not in Orlando, but in Constantine.
I agree. She's amazing in Constantine. She's certainly a high point. She
is staggeringly brilliant and believable.
Yeah, it's the angel Gabrielle.
An avenging angel in her moments. It's just, there's something so
and quite a
perfect.
Dickish angel as well, to the point where Keanu Reeves has a moment where he gets to punch Tilda Swinton in the face, which doesn't do it much because, she's an angel in this, but still, it is quite a satisfying moment.
It's pretty great. By the way...
It's like Tilda Swinton versus John Wick.
Worlds are colliding for you today.
Oh.
Because not only is your beloved Bill Hader in Trainwreck, but you get a massively demented Tilda Swinton performance in that film.
She's in Trainwreck? Oh my god. Okay.
She is unrecognizable in that movie.
Yeah, I'm skipping your party tonight. I'm going to go watch Trainwreck. That's what I'll be doing instead. I didn't know she was in that.
Yeah, she's not a huge part, but it's something. It's a weird part. It's one of those that only when the movie was over did I realize she was in it.
But I will say, everything I know about Tilda Swinton's personal life, and there's not much. She's not a big tabloid type person, but she seems to be a genuine weirdo.
The person who has 2 public lovers is not a tabloid.
Well, yeah, but she's never become mainstream enough for the Inquirer to give a crap,
I mean, here and there.
But when I hear stuff about her, it's always like, well, that was strange. When she, like I said, she went to the Oscars dressed as a trash bag, which is the only way to describe that outfit she was wearing. And there was also her appearing in a museum display, sleeping in a glass case, which I always want to go visit because I want to tap on the Tilda Swinton aquarium that said, "Please do not feed the Tildas."
Please do not feed the Tildas is a great tagline. Let's see if we get another great tagline in this ad that I'm about to play. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The sleeping in the glass case thing.
Yeah.
Where was that?
Some European museum avant-garde artsy thing. And yeah, she would act at night, and then she'd sleep during the day. Like, oh, I'll sleep in a case in a museum. People can come by, and as long as they don't wake me up, I'm fine.
Utterly pretentious.
Oh yeah, God, yes.
Ridiculously on every conceivable.
And would I buy a ticket for it? Oh yes.
Yeah, I can see that. Just to say you saw it.
Yeah.
There she is.
I watched you while you were sleeping.
Yeah, creepy. Very, very creepy. We've got about 10 seconds. 7 seconds. And we're back on CJL 1690 AM. Our little show is called Cinema Smackdown, and we're running down the best working actresses today. I know you're not done with your Tilda Swinton stories, but let me just quickly mention another person, and then we can go back to her if you wish. I will mention 2 actresses very quickly, 3 actresses very quickly that I'm fond of and have made great choices in the last few years. This is much to my own surprise, but looking through filmographies, I realized, you know what? I still kind of like Nicole Kidman, which she's done a lot of work to make me not like her.
Yeah, she tries hard to.
But I mean, she was recently in Destroyer, where she plays this strangest role, which I couldn't help but have some respect for. But going backwards, she's in Stoker, which she's amazing.
Yeah,
everything about Stoker though just elevates it. As far as I'm concerned, it's a brilliant movie.
Yeah.
Dogville, which was a bit before, but she's still great in it. The Others, she's so great in that, or at least they're great choices.
Yeah, Others I was nonplussed about, but that was more like...
I quite liked it.
It was one of those films that everyone went on about. It's so shocking and surprising. You mean this thing I guessed in 5 minutes?
But
okay.
That's not... You never see a movie with anyone's opinion stuck to it. It's just a cute little
Especially,
film.
you will never believe the twist.
That I decided in the first minute.
Yeah.
And I'm also a big fan, a really, really big fan, 20 years after having seen it, of not liking it at first. I'm actually quite a big fan of Eyes Wide Shut now. I think that movie is gorgeous, a little upsetting, kind of fascinating, a little old man written in places, but still interesting.
Yeah, it was, like most Kubrick films, I think it benefits from multiple viewings to get on board with. Yeah, that first viewing of any Kubrick film is always like, okay, what am I watching? And then the second viewing is like, okay, now I'm going to appreciate what that is.
My first viewing of Eyes Wide Shut was, that's it. This is so long for something to tell so little a story. But on repeat viewing, I thought, wow, it's really interesting, the tone in places. So, but I fully understand when people say, I hated that movie, because generally that's the reaction.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman is one of those actresses who... I sort of grudgingly respect because, there's a lot of good choices in there. And yet, I still have a bad taste in my mouth from the very first thing I ever saw her in, which was the thriller Dead Calm. Which is almost a terrific little thriller, but it has things in it that just irritate me so badly that, especially... There's the worst moment is the tactic she has to use in that film where she sleeps with the villain in order to get from point A to point B, and point A to point B is literally 5 feet. That was one of those moments in that film.
It's a rough moment.
It's just it. Meanwhile, the Sam Neill storyline of her trying to put together a boat to go after the situation that's happening in the film, and it's this sinking pile of crap, and he's just using super sailor abilities to keep this thing afloat. That was the great storyline.
Yeah, agreed. I actually really love that movie, but it's a rough movie. It is a rough movie. It's really well made, though, Dead Calm. Really well made. It's definitely worth a watch if you like tight, tense thrillers. It's a well-made film. All right, enough about Nicole Kidman. I also really like Vera Farmiga
Oh,
There's
yeah.
another one of these actresses who's kind of everywhere. Every so often you see, oh, she's in 5 things this year. She was the love interest in the movie Up in the Air with George Clooney. Probably the biggest profile thing she's done. But she's in a lot of strange stuff. She's in Running Scared, the Paul Walker
Yes.
weirdo. She has the best scene in the movie.
Oh God, her little subplot is fantastic in that film. It just overpowers the rest of the film. It's about 5% of the entire film, and yet it's better than the rest of the 95%.
The largest amount of work she's done in the last few years was she was on, I want to say 5, but it might be 4 seasons of a show called Bates Motel, which is a recreation of the story of Psycho. Not in a 2-hour block, but in a 30 or 40-hour version of that story. She plays Norman's mother, and she is great on the show, because she's not a one-note villain. She's kind of a difficult but loving mother who might have some slight mental problems that surface every so often.
Yeah, might possibly.
But she's really, really good in that show. It's an ongoing role, watching her struggle to kind of keep a motel afloat. It's interesting. She did a great job. And finally, for Vera Farmiga, there's a movie I recommend to anybody who likes things super weird. She's in a film called Quid Pro Quo, which is her and Nick Stahl. It's a movie about a man in a wheelchair meeting people who fetishize the idea of winding up in a wheelchair. It is David Cronenberg's Crash-level creepy, and it, in some sequences, delves all the way into science fiction. It is an incredibly odd movie. Quid Pro Quo. I recommend it to anyone who thinks that sounds good.
And I would also like to give a shout-out to the fact that she was in the Scorsese film The Departed, simply because I want to say The Departed.
Right. I am also a fan of Olivia Wilde, who came up on TV shows like The OC and a lengthy role on House, and then wound up in a bunch of movies you'll never see. Called you, Shane. She was recently in a film called A Vigilante, where she just sort of metes out justice against men in scene after scene of her kicking the crap out of and or murdering people, which I thought was actually quite good.
It's a remake of Ms. 45?
Yeah, to a degree. It kind of is. It's an actor movie, though. She has, like everyone who's in it, an ill-fated role in the movie Life Itself. I have mentioned before, the movie Life Itself is one of those films that is so wrong-headed in so many ways that you can't help but yell at the movie as you're watching it because of the terrible choices the director has made for the characters, including breaking the fourth wall with Samuel L. Jackson talking to you, the viewer.
Sam Jackson talks to me in every film. I don't know what you're talking about.
So I'm a fan of Olivia Wilde, but mostly I'm a fan of Olivia Wilde because this year she directed a movie. It was called Booksmart, and it was phenomenal. It's the closest thing to a John Hughes movie I've seen since John Hughes made movies, which is not to say it resembles his work, but is a good high school movie. One that I hope will stand the test of time. Much the way his films seem to continue to speak to people, I hope this movie lasts. Booksmart, it's just about 2 young women who realize on the eve of graduating from high school that they have done nothing but study, and that other people who have actually had a social life and enjoyed their high school experience have also done quite well, and they realize they've wasted their high school experience and try to cram an entire high school existence into one night. And it is a really effective one-night movie. They go everywhere and do everything and have ridiculous emotional problems and or catharsis and all that stuff. So there's a lot done in that little movie, and I thought it was extremely well directed. So that's what brings Olivia Wilde way up for me, is not just her acting. She's an interesting actress, but she's a potentially great director for the future. Which brings me finally to the closest thing I have to a pick for the actress I'm most interested in working with.
So another greatest actress, greatest director, Sofia Coppola.
Oh yeah. Let's definitely go down that road. You know how I love Sofia Coppola.
We both do.
So the closest thing I have to an actress who I could, and I like everybody I mentioned quite a bit. This person is just in so many interesting things, and a lot of them are choices I wouldn't have agreed with, but they're still interesting, is an actress named Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who you may well remember as Ramona Flowers from Scott Pilgrim vs.
Yes, okay.
She's in at least one interesting thing a year, and has been for pretty much since 2005. She kind of blends into the movie. She doesn't have a huge standout. You can mistake her for being somebody else in some of these films. She was in Sky High, playing one of the kids with powers. She was in one of the Final Destination movies, playing one of the people who is, about to die. She's in Black Christmas, which is, again, just a movie where they're picking people off. She's in...
So good choices all.
She's in Grindhouse, playing one of the women that Kurt Russell is out to get.
Oh,
She's,
okay.
in fact, the woman they leave on the farm.
Oh, right. Yes.
She
Gulp.
has the creepiest, most horrifying role in that movie. I don't understand why it's in it. She's in that.
She is. She has the best line of the entire film for me, which is "gulp."
She plays grown-up Lucy McLean in Live Free or Die Hard.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Like I said, then she was in
So
Scott
good
Pilgrim.
again. Good choices all. Yeah.
Well, I doubt these have a lot to do with her having any power to choose her roles.
And yet, some of the other people we've mentioned early on, they figured it out.
Well, you take what you get.
Because I agree, she's good, but
she's amazing in Scott Pilgrim. She is the protagonist in the remake of The Thing, /
Oh yeah.
She is in the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter movie as Mary.
Okay, just the new agent. I think that's the solution here. There's some management problems here because you're better than those roles.
I know, but she's in every one of these movies, good or bad, is interesting. They are. Every one of these is something like, I'd like to be associated with that. Oh god, that turned out horribly. She's in a film called Faults from 2014, which is a really odd movie about a cult deprogrammer being pulled into a cult. That's kind of what the movie is. And the director of Faults recently made a movie called The Art of Self-Defense, which is really well worth seeing. She's not in that one, but she is in Faults, which is excellent. She is the only woman in the movie Swiss Army Man. Small part, but still. She is in 10 Cloverfield Lane playing the protagonist, and this brings me all the way around to the fact that she's in Gemini Man.
Okay, well.
But Mary Elizabeth Winstead is somebody who I feel is close to being there. By the way, we're entirely out of time.
Somehow I expect Gemini Man will not get her there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on Wednesday. If you want to come see the movie, write to us at cinemasmackdown.com and tell us why you want to pass. I've been Michael Brody. I've been joined by Shane Simmons today. This has been Cinema Smackdown, and we are fully out of time, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Surprise, it's over.
Once again, we ran out of time so fast.
This is why we need a producer.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, I hand signal you how many minutes we have repeatedly.
Yeah.
Huh. That's the way we do these things.
Until the hand signal is like, and we have 3 seconds left.
So, I have a short anecdote to tell you.
Uh-huh.
So, I have long been annoyed at the fact that we often seem to have just a little not enough time, mostly. I always feel that way. I'm like...
I think you can give us 8 hours and we'll still get to that. Oh, shit, we gotta wrap it up.
Most of our topics, I meet out how much I want to say about it, and we get there and I'm like, yeah, too much. It's always too much. I'm always racing at the end to get through my point.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I went to the 20th anniversary thing. You were there.
Yeah.
And when I was chatting with Jessica says to me, she says... I don't remember what the context was, but she said something like, oh, you're well-spoken. Have you considered expanding your show?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yes, in fact, I have considered expanding it, only because every week I always feel pressured to get through that last chunk. And I said, so I had a thought on that, but she said, you should talk to Allison about that possibility. And I'm like, well, it would really have to do with me, whether or not I could get Shane to stay longer than an hour, which would be, it's asking a lot, and I know that. So, I have a thought, and my thought is, if we had a 90-minute block, I think that would be amazing, and we'd really be able to just calmly exit. So I contact Allison, and I say, hey, Allison, there's nobody before us, nobody after us doing the show. Do you think we could do a 90-minute show? Mm-hmm. And then she writes back, well, it's really hard to program a 90-minute